Welcome everybody. Mayid. This is the weekly share of the Zer Shimshon. It's a Hemshech today. It's a continuation of the last year, which was on Shir Shirim, which is the highlight Megillah for Pesach. And today is Yutes Nisan. It's the fourth day of the Eimer. It's Hashem, which we also continue to count the Omer until the end, until Shavuos. So here we go. There's still a question about the words of Rabbi Eliezer. That everybody agrees that when it comes to Atzeres, which is Shavuos, that everybody needs to have lochem. In other words, you have to have a part of this celebration of the Yom Tov to be for yourself. The Eich Be'inin Lachem Ba'atzeres, Mitnei Shenitna B'Torah. Why Dafka B'Shvuos that you need to have this aspect of your own physical pleasure when this is the day of giving of the Torah? You would think just the opposite. Adarabah B'Yom Shekiblu HaTorah Shehi Kula La'olam Haba. So the day the Torah was given was the 6th of Sivan, was on a Shabbos. It should be completely for the world to come. The schar mitzvahs b'hai amaleka, because the reward for mitzvahs in this world doesn't exist. It's impossible. So that day should be completely sanctified to Hashem. Since the malachim in heaven desired the Torah, they wanted it to be given to them and not to the human beings. But since they can't keep the mitzvahs actually, they have no body to keep the mitzvahs. They can't lay tefillin, they can't keep Shabbos, they can't eat matzahs. So there was, in actuality, Moshe was victorious over them. So therefore, for this very reason, the Jewish people are obligated to eat on the day of the giving of the Torah, which is Shavuos. If there wouldn't have been food to eat, if human beings wouldn't eat food, they would live like angels, then there would be no reason to give them the Torah. The Torah wouldn't have been fitting. It has to have this physical actualization, the manifestation. The Torah wouldn't have been fitting for them. Shekama Azhoris Namaru, the Torah le'asar b'achila harbe v'dvorim. So you can't eat blood, you can't eat chaylev. There's a lot of things, Ever Menachai, there's a lot of things you can't eat in the Torah. So this reason alone, the eating part was enough for Moshe Rabbeinu to be victorious over the angels. It says Zeis HaTorah, lahavdil ben hatami ben hator, to distinguish between what's prohibited, what's impure, and what's pure. So you are privileged to get the Torah because you have the power to eat and to sanctify and to hold and make holy all the things that we touch and come in contact with. So you, only human beings can make these distinctions. Most of the prohibitions in the Torah are in reference to meat, or something to do with meat. So there's all kinds of prohibitions. Main tummy of the Torah, and when we had the laws of Tumah and Tahara in the time of the Beis Hamikdash, there would be those in addition to all the other laws. Shechita, Malicha, Gid Anasha. So shechting, salting, the Gid Anasha, you're not allowed to eat. Oisav Esbanai, Karbanis, there's endless things that Dafka have to do with eating. But Perik Shlishi, there's Besachim, it says in Daf Mem Tes, Amad Beis, Amrinan, Am Ha'oretz Asher Lechal Basa. And Amoritz is really prohibited to eat basar. It means somebody that really doesn't learn Torah at all. They learn it from this. Pasuk Zeis HaTorahs Behema. This is the laws of the animal. So, and right next to it says Lahavdil, to distinguish. Now, Kol Mi She'oisek B'Torah Muter Lechol Behema Chayav. Anybody who is engaged in Torah learning is permitted to eat animals. Somebody that's not engaged in Torah learning is really not allowed to eat animals. The reason for this is Masha Kosav Panim Masbiris, according to Rav Shmuel Shimon Mivina, on the Gadei Seder Moed. So be'achilas habasar misrabe koyach hayetzer hara begufay shaladam. Eating meat increases the power of the yetzer hara in the body of the person. Ki habasar shehu gufa behami. Because meat, which is itself from the animal, right? It's the lower coarse physical contact. Is mamshich ala adam bam kama daveres bedamik vegufoy benafshay. So it draws upon a person in his blood, in his body, and his nefesh many averes. Lachein la'am ha'aretz, the person that's an am ha'aretz doesn't study Torah. As asar lechol basar ki yisrabe alav koyach hayetzer hara, because it increases in him the power of the yetzer hara, so he doesn't have the capability of battling this yetzer hara. Mashenkin atamid chacham shu oisem v'Torah v'haTorah hu tavlin liyetzer hara. Since the Torah is the spice that rectifies the yetzer hara in the person, ve'ein yetzer hara shoylet v'misha liboy b'Torah, and the person, the yetzer hara doesn't have an effect on a person that his heart is in Torah all the time. The pasuk comes to give an answer for this. So why is it permitted for the Talmid Chacham to eat flesh? Because it increases the yetzer hara in him also. Even though he has this Torah that he's learning that causes a solution for his problem with the yetzer hara, so why should he put himself into this doubt? That's why the pasuk says that he should be able to make a distinction between what's impure and pure. Well, the Talmid Chacham is obligated to teach people all the laws of the Jewish people, and with an open eye, more wide vision, he has a perspective, we'll call it, to all the judgment, all the laws that are necessary for this all the time. I told my wife, it's like somebody, Torah is something like a recipe, right? If you miss one part of the recipe, the whole cake or the whole thing you're making is not going to come out right. It might be okay a little bit, but it's not, you make a mistake, one little mistake, it's no good. Especially by Pesach stuff. Somebody that doesn't eat meat, his mind is not clear. Like the Gemara in Meruba and Bava Kama B'daf Ayin Beis Amud Aleph says, Omer le Chamisha Bakar, Omer Rachmana v'loy Chamisha Chatzai Bakar. It says 5 bakar, which are oxen, or cows, we'll call them, and not 5 half cows. The reason I didn't say that, and that was a Gemara that he was explaining something to another Talmud. He said, the reason I couldn't come up with that answer last night is because I hadn't eaten meat. So meat makes you have a clearer mind. So therefore, eating meat actually, for a Talmud Chacham, weakens the power of the Yetzer Hara by koyach Torasai, with the power of his Torah. Al machmas zeh yavai lehafrish bein chelik atuma lechelik hakadusha lezeu habed. That's what he means. He distinguishes between the power of the unholy or unfit and the power of the fit. Yadua ki iker hasimchas yom tov he dafka b'basar. Now go back to this question about lochem, right? You have to have the simcha for lochem. Everybody agrees that. So, excuse me. The main simcha of Yom Tov is to have meat. So this was a day that the Torah was given to people and not to the angels. Because they don't have a Yetzer Hara. They don't have the power to distinguish between good and evil. Like Moshe said to them, Yetzer Hara yesh beinechem? Do you have a Yetzer Hara? Okay. And furthermore, it hints to us that somebody who learns Torah is obligated to eat meat. That he is to force his Yetzer Hara to be subjected to this test, so that his mind should be clear. Nami shemerotzin levenoi kiblanu. I'm sorry. Shemerotzin libenu kiblanu. That we accepted the Torah from our own willing heart. V'loi al yomu shebishvil shekafa aleinu sahar kagigis. And not because that God stood over the mountains, hung over us, and forced us. And riyas hasimcha ela bekeras malaya. So you can only have simcha when you have a full belly. Bishvil zeh dafka avdei egla tilsa shehu min basar hatayv. So that's why basar chashav. That's when he made the best kind of meat, which is the third egel, the third calf, and that would be the choicest of the meats for veal. The third to the betten, to the third calf to the mother would be the choicest meats. So that's the best of veal. V'chein kasav Abachai says in Parshas Bereishis, Rabbeinu Bachai, shebesibas hamaychal ve'hamishta yisayru koichas haguf, that with the reason of eating and drinking, it arouses the powers of the body. Behisayru koichas haguf niyos yisayru v'chazu gam koichas hanefesh. So when he arouses the powers of the body, it also arouses zeluma and the powers of the soul. Lefisha Michael Mishta Sibois Gedolos Lesimchas Alev, because eating and drinking is a great reason for the happiness of the heart. Lehachik Eitzavoin v'hataiga, to distance from himself depression and worry. Uberabois Hasimcha, the more he increases his happiness, Yischaze Koyach Hasichli Sheyesh Benefesh. So that strengthens the intelligence of his power, the power of intelligence in his soul. So he's more prepared physically and mentally to understand deeper concepts. That's when we begin to understand the explanation of the pasuk in Shir Hashirim, Asher L'Shleimai. Where the Gemara says in Shir Hashirim Rabbah, Melech Shasholem Shalai. Who's Shleimai here? It's the Melech, who's the king, that the peace is his. In other words, perfection is his. The Kasha Ki Kol Mashi Yesh Ba'Elam Hayena Shalai. What's the question? Nothing. Is there something in the world that doesn't belong to God? The Ksiv, it says in Tehillim, Lashem Ha'aretz U'Malaya. Everything belongs to God. Ela HaKavana Kachi. But the intention is this. Shasholem Hi Shaloi. Dafka Kulei Nasan Lechelek HaKedusha. The peace, or the completion, the completeness. So the word shalom, is misinterpreted sometimes to say peace, but it's not peace. Peace, this means shalem. Shalem, the root word is complete or sufficient. So therefore, that's given to Dafka Kulei Nasan Lachelek HaKedusha. That should be given over to completely to the level of holiness. And the Sitracha doesn't have a portion in that at all. That's why Dafka, God blessed them, our nation with peace, or with wholesomeness, we'll call it. Like it says in Tehillim, Hashem oiz la'amo yitem. Shetzilonu mihamachalaikis shel ha'umais. Should save us from all the arguments and the silly quarrels of the nations of the world. Sheyomer lahem shehem Yisrael. Kishiyatiku es haTorah machmes haTorah sheba'al peh and shenasan lanu. So they were trying to take away the Torah from take away the validity of the Torah from us, especially the Torah sheba'al peh. Right? They accept a written law, but that is nothing if you don't have the oral law. Okay, you have to go back and see. He references it twice. Al Midrash and Tanchum, it says in Parshas Kisisa, Bikesh Moshe Shetia HaMishnah B'Ksav. So Moshe Rabbeinu requested that the Mishnah should be written down. Now, originally it was in Tob Rabbi, Rabbeinu HaKadosh, which was after the time of the second Beis HaMikdash. It wasn't written. Everything was memorized. We're not allowed to. In fact, it was usher to write it down. That's what he means in the pasuk, that God should kiss us with the kisses of His mouth. Even though that the Torah in the written word is more important, more deep already than the Torah and the oral law. But when we call divrei asayfim, from all the words of the rabbis, higdil imanu chazdai. He increased with us his chesed, higdil mailas haTorah, that he increased the elevation of the Torah shebachol shebal peh lechvaydenu, that he increased the beauty and the importance of the Torah shebal peh, which is P, right? Meaning Shiko is Pihu is Torah shebal peh. Dafke koresim koman habris. That's where he made the bris. He made the covenant with us with the Torah shebal peh. Adarabba divrei seifrim chavivim alav yosem divrei Torah. That is, the words of the rabbis are more dear than the words of the Torah themselves, the written law. Why? It says, it's better your dodecha miyayin. It says, Tovim divrei adudayim miyino shel Torah. So it's more dear to Hashem the words of the oral law than the actual yenoi shel Torah, the actual written law, the wine, the deep wine. Like it says in Mishlei, Vishosu b'yein masachti. They drank with the wine that they are anointed with. Inami ki tovim dodecha miyayin arevim divrei dodayim. They're more sweet, the words of our rabbis. Kishemispat being b'yenam, kishemispat mitpatim b'yenam sheyesh ba midas kainam, midas shivim Sanhedrin. So there's a mixture of the Rebbeinish Olam's words and the understanding of those from the Sanhedrin. Kedarmina be'eruv in the Gemara in Eruvin says daf samachay, and also in the Gemara in Sanhedrin. V'zeu al pura shal al havianu el beis hayayin v'digloy alei avad. On the pasuk in Shirashim, he brought me to the house of the wine, right? And he jumped over us with love. Lefisha be'perek shmini, and then Sanhedrin there daf ayin amrinin yud gimel vavim ne'amru be'yayin. There says it's 13 vavim says by wine. The kulam lashon vai, and all of them are an expression of woe. have oid amru chazal and Gemara in Yoma Daf Ayin Vav Zacha misamchatoi. If he's privileged, wine will make him happy. And that's why wine is good for older people. Old wine is good for older people. It opens their minds. A lot of things said good about wine. Lefikach Omer havieni heviani halbeis hayayin mishani mispata b'yeni. Okay, so that's why it says he brings me into the house, his house of wine, that he's going to persuade me with my wine. As who simon v'diglei aleav, and that's the simon. We have this. That's why it says ein simcha. I know it says before ein simcha l'babasar, but that was in the time of the Beis Hamikdash. But today, the Rambam brings down that ein simcha l'bayayin. So the real simcha today, since we don't have the simcha of the karbonos in the Beis Hamikdash, we have the simcha of the wine. She'ahava is b'gematria yud gimel keneged yud gimel vavi. So that gematria of ahava is 13. That's keneged the yud gimel vavim of the wine. So it counteracts the effects of the wine. Inami emasai arevim divrei dudaim. When is it sweet to us, the words of the sages? When we show that we have happiness by accepting the Torah from Har Sinai. It says in Tehillim, wine makes happy the person's heart. And that's why they drank wine at a special sudas yain after the kavura of a person, after the burial. That's why we make a special time to drink by Shavuos. Because every Suda is called by the wine. It's a mishteh. So you don't call a mishteh drinking water or milk. Omer Chazal, the Gemara says, V'chein Pirish Rashi on the pasuk in Esther al pasuk Yovei HaMelech v'Haman el HaMishteh asher sisi lai. You come to bring both the king Achashverosh and Haman to the Suda of the Mishnah, which Esther prepared for them, and that was the whole Mapala that started that. So we wish you a Chag Kosher v'Sameach, and may you have Shvi Shel Pesach. May all the waters of the world split once again and bring the Jews back to Eretz Yisrael. HaKadosh. Kol Tov, Kol Tov.